Hi, welcome to a webinar. We will wait maybe one more minute if someone else is joining. There's many people interested. Yes. All right. Perfect. Let's get it started because this is going to take a while to go through some of the tools and to explain the write back function at the end. This webinar would get recorded. However, we will open up the microphones at the end if you would like to raise any questions. So for that moment on, we will stop the recordings. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to write on the chat. We've got a specialized person from InfoRiver here that will also help us with more technical or also pricing related questions. So let's get it started. Just a moment here. We'll be sharing my screen. So my name is Jürgen Buchmann. I'm a finance and IBCS reporting consultant by BSG Data Analytics AG. With me will be today Nurul Arslan, who's in the call, partner and CEO of BSG. We are a small boutique for business intelligence located in Zurich, and we are Microsoft Gold partners, which means that the core of the technology that we deploy and use is Microsoft based. Our main customer base is located in the DACH region. It's Germany, Austria, Switzerland, where we have medium-sized to large customers such as Dena, Manor, Valora, the Swiss National Bank, Cardex, and so on. So before spending more time on this, I would like to get straight into Power BI. I'm not sure how many of you may already have worked with Power BI. I will assume that perhaps you may not have the highest of the expertise on it so that we could level up the level of understanding for each one of the attendees. And for that reason, I will go step by step. So the first thing that we need to understand here is that what we're looking at, this is a visual from InfoRiver. InfoRiver, which belongs to Lumel Technologies, has developed a series of visuals that are helpful for financial controllers and for business experts in general. So there are two visuals. One is a matrix that we are looking at, and the other one is the Analytics Plus, where you can develop charts that are all IBCS compliant, charts, tables, and KPI cards. What is IBCS? IBCS stands for the International Business Communication Standards, which are basically the standards for dashboarding, financial reporting, and communication, which has created that semantic layer for you to display everything that you need regarding business-related topics, such as prior year figures, budgets, plans, forecasts, in the easiest way possible, so that any financial expert or any business expert from any area could have an immediate overview of their business situation just in one shot. Maybe I could provide you one example of that just very quickly. So before we jump into the forecasting capabilities of this tool, the first thing you will need to notice here is that it is very much Excel-like. So it has that feeling with the ribbon at the top where you can just play around with the figures directly on the matrix. This is a capability that it's not easy to do, or it's basically impossible many times with the normal, let's say the native matrix from Power BI. So this visual developed by InfoRiver will allow us to create plenty of solutions for financial reporting. One of the things I could show you very quickly without getting too much into it, for example, it has different templates At the moment, we are looking at the financial standard template, but we could also develop performance type of templates between the actual and the prior year figures. For example, we could do it for 2023, where we've got both actual and prior year data. And this way, as you would see it here, you could have an overview of your business performance just in one shot by using the best practices for financial reporting. So let's dive now deep into the forecasting and budgeting capabilities, because as I mentioned at the beginning, this may take a little bit of time. What is the important thing to notice about this? First of all, whenever we like to develop a budget or a forecast of any type, it is very important to be able to read the data from the actuals that we already have, but also to write the data based on the figures that we have developed. This has always been a bit of a challenge, especially if you're coming from an Excel-based practices, where getting the actual data many times it means downloading the reports from CSV files, for example, from ERP or accounting systems, so that you can actualize that data manually every month. Many times you create placeholders to do that. And then you need to map those different account levels or hierarchical levels, better said, depending on the granularity level you would like to get into. And then you need to create a method to write the forecast, which is very difficult, for example, in Excel to work on a row level. It's usually just on a column level if you would like to automate the process a little bit more. Here, this visual from InfoRiver will allow you all these possibilities. So just as a quick overview about the data, sorry, this is the fact table with all the transactions that we have here, where we've got all the transactions per account from an accounting system or a finance department. We have them here from 1st of January 2022 until December 2023. So that's the range of actualized data that we have at the moment. And that's what we could see there at the top. So when we start doing the forecasting and the budgeting, we will actualize the data so that you could see how the tool really operates. Now I would like to begin just by focusing on 2024, for example, where we do not have any actual data, but we have the prior year figures, right? So all the actual data from 2023. How can we create a budget? There are three easy ways to do that I would like to display right now. The first is by creating a simulation. What do we mean by that? Basically, we could call this one plan number one. We may use another measure as a baseline, which in this case would be the prior year figures, and then starting to move the figures based on that baseline that we have defined. I will make sure someone's the lobby. I will make sure that you could also see this a little bit better. So let me increase the size of it. So as you could see here right now, we've got the prior year figures on one side and we've got the plan on the other side. This is the grand total for the 2024 figures. We could either start moving the values here, for example, on an aggregated level. And we could say maybe for this year, we will have a gross revenue 2% higher, or let's say a little bit more, 6% higher. And sorry, but let's keep it there. And then, for example, you could also start moving the values around on a more granular level on each month. So you could see that you could do that for each value and everything will get aggregated on the bottom lines that you have defined, which in this case for this P&L, the bottom line will be the operating profit, just to make it simple. That's one way to do that. So you have this possibility to track basically the values from left to right, or you could also allocate the specific percentage amount that you would like to use for this simulation. Another way to set up the forecast, the budget in this case, would be to create a blank data input. To not get too confused here, I'm going to delete the other one, and we will create a new one from an empty series. So we will call this one plan number 2. Perfect. Boom, there we have it. So in the plan number 2, we could start aggregating values, for example, starting from the gross sales. We could say maybe we would like to have gross sales times 7% higher for this month compared to last year. So we will multiply it there, same as we do it in Excel. And we have different properties here as well, so that we can distribute the values, for example, until the last column with a trend of increase, let's say plus 2%. And as you could see there, the revenues have been allocated with a 2% increase until end of the year. We could also say, okay, maybe from September on, we would like the trend to just get stable. So we will copy the same value until the last column. This is one of the capabilities it has. Another thing is that you could start from a higher aggregation level. So let's say, for example, we would like the discounts and everything underneath to be 50 millions. The values are in millions here, rather than 48 or a percentage of it. So you could just simply type in minus 50M. And the visual will understand that you mean here 50 millions, because if you double click on it, you could see there that 6 zeros have been added there. And that's the same if you will add a B, if you've got billions or any other level of digits. So as you could see there, the default allocation has been using equal weights, but you could also say distribute the weights based on the prior year figures from a different month, or also to distribute the weights based on another plan that we have set up on a different month, where perhaps the allocation, the weights, might be more in line to what we're doing here in this case in particular. So we will do it here now based on January 2024. And boom, the allocation has worked out this way. The third method would be to get the data as a basis from the prior year figures, as same as we did it for the first case, but by using the capabilities of manual inputs as we have done it now. So let's erase this plan number 2, and let's copy now from the prior year figures all the data, as you could see there, and let's call it now just plain planner. Perfect. So this is going to be the final plan that we will use for demonstration purposes. The gross revenue, now we will increase it. Let's say, we would say this is going to be 520 millions. And we will copy it with an increase of 4% until end of the year. And perhaps the OPEX, we could do that for just as a percentage value of the prior year figures. Let's say it's just gonna be 1% higher. And then we will increase this value with a trend of 1% until end of the year. As you could see there, also all the values underneath this aggregated level of expenses gets immediately replaced by respecting the weights that you already have. Another feature I would like to show is the forecast, but let me show you first what will happen if we will actualize the data. So I would take out the prior year figures from here. Oh, sorry, probably it's because this one. I think I've made a mistake. Just a moment. It's strange. Yeah, probably it's the way I have set up the filters, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt. It was just going to display things in an easy way for you to visualize it, but you will see it anyway. So we will actualize the data here. We would say now we would like to have data coming in from the ERP system, for example, and we would like to have it for end of May 2024. This is why maybe. Okay, I've made a mistake with the file before. Doesn't matter. I can still show you the capabilities of the forecast. Let me ingest the forecast here. What I wanted to do is actualize the data, but I actually needed to connect to the original source to do that. But it's going to be the same. Let's say I would like to create a forecast now from January until December 2024. I will do it based on the plan, but first I will need to define that if there's any closed period before this period where we're going to forecast, just replace it with the actual values. So we will name it here forecast. And then we will say, let's create this forecast based on the plan. And the period range that we will copy is going to be, so that you could see there, from January until December 2024. And boom, there we have it. So it's exactly the same. Now, we would like to say maybe the forecast, as the time goes by, might be changing, might be different from the planned figures. So what we could do is to say maybe the forecast now is going to be just 80% of what we expected, for example, from the plan for the same month. We just multiply it by 0.8. And then we distribute this value, for example, with a trend of 1%. So it's very easy. It's very straightforward. Another thing that it's very useful here is that if we look into the settings of the forecast, we could say, for example, we could define what will happen with the forecast once new data will be coming in. We could say we would like to retain the original forecast for analysis purposes, but we could also say we would like to override the forecast with the actual data that it's flowing in. And for that, we will define the override forecast. Usually, I prefer to do that so that we just focus only on the following periods where we are deviating from the plan. And we could also say, I would like the periods to get closed, for example, on a specific calendar day, on each month, on the next month, or on a work day. You could also disable this auto automated closing feature so that you could do it manually. And for that, there's also a specific feature here where you can allocate the rights to the people only to those who are able, for example, to close the periods. Could be the finance manager at your company, or those who will be able to read and write data. For example, if you've got a controller who will be in charge of writing the forecast, updating the values, and you've got full control of the governance of this tool as well. And obviously, you've got more details to update uh, regarding the forecast. So that's the way it operates. If we will look at another feature here right now, because we are starting to run out of time and knew this was going to happen, we could also create scenarios. This is also another great feature. So for example, everything what we have done so far, we could call it the base case scenario. That's going to be called by default. But now we would like to create the best case scenario. Best, let's call it like this. The starting period from January 2024 until December 2024 as well. And it's going to use all these measures for that simulation. And boom, there we have it. The base case has been saved by default, as mentioned, and the best case is something that we can work on right now. We do not have actual value at the moment, but we could also add it for when actuals will start coming in so that you can also have that overview here. And here, for example, we could say maybe on the best case scenario, the forecast for the revenue is actually going to perhaps surpass the original budget that we had, like this. Boom. In this way, you can start using the simulation capabilities that we shown at the beginning as the first case for the budget, but you could also use the distribution one, which is the second and the third method that we previously shown. Another scenario we could build is the worst case scenario, where we could do a similar exercise here. And there, we could say, for example, now in this case, perhaps the forecast is going to be even worse than what we already had. So you could distribute every value on a different level of the hierarchy on different months for the filter context. And now the interesting part is the following, is that all the values are going to get saved on the visual here. So if you have a small organization where you're actually looking into something simple as this as a solution, this is actually a great solution because you're reading the data from your data source, where you will have the hierarchies automatically set up and refreshed, and where you can be allocating values for the new months to come without having to do all this manual exercise that you usually do in Excel. Now, if you are on a larger organization where you would like to have this data to get access from other sources, and you would like to write it back to your database so you can keep a single point of truth, that's what the write back function is here for. So we've got two write back options here. One is the normal one without the scenarios, and the other one is where we could actually select the different scenarios where we have. You could either come here on the scenarios and do that, or on the export ribbon as well, where you could also check out the settings for the destinations, which at the moment we have selected the Azure SQL database as a destination. But as I'm going to show you here now, there's plenty of other out-of-the-box connections. So if you will need to write the data back to a Fabric Lakehouse, for example, or warehouse, or you've got, for example, Snowflake, Dataverse, even OneDrive, you could do that from here. The only thing you need to add is just your basic information to get authorized to do that. And yeah, and then everything it's already established. You could also specify who can write back from this report, and it will be connected to the login from your Microsoft account or from your organization account, better said. And after the settings have been established, you just wait 3 seconds, and then you can write everything back. We will select the 3 scenarios, and then I will show you how it looks like. Depending on the amount of data, may take a bit longer, shorter, but usually it takes around 1 minute. We can wait a little bit. By the way, maybe you're also looking at other properties here. So other things that you could do with this visual is to create PDF reports or exports in Excel, where you can also keep the same formatting that you have here. You could also manage subscriptions, which means creating a report that it's being scheduled on a particular day or a particular date throughout the year for specific users. You could also create snapshots of the data for a certain moment in time. And these are all enterprise level capabilities, basically. So as you could see, the write back has finished. So if we will come here to the database and we will update the tables, as you see here, we have a new table right now. If we will select the top 1,000 or maybe the top 5,000 because of the size of the data, you will be able to see that all the data has been written by respecting the filter context within the visual. So we've got the best, the worst, and also the base case scenario. I may need to add more rows, but let's keep it like this for the moment. We've got also the different levels of the accounts hierarchy that we have displayed on the rows, that one there. We also have the calendar year. We've got the months, these ones. And then we've got the type of measure that we have recorded, which could be the actuals, the forecast, the plans, or also the variations. We've got the values related to each one of the different measures for the filter context. And if we will go to the far right, we could also see the data recorded for the user who has written back to the database with the timestamp. So you have full control over who did what, when, and what. Having done this, now you can call this data back from any other source that you may have. So we could do it here directly in Power BI, for example, where we could connect to the database. The server and the database name. As you could see it here, we will select the table where we've got the budget and the scenarios, and you will see it coming there. Boom, there we have it, the table, with all the different filter contexts defined, or when we have set up this logic, all the values, all the account levels, and that later on you could, for example, if you do it on a key level, which will be the easiest, you could connect it to the other dimensions and you can have a very nice an easy start schema where all your actual data, for example, could be on the fact table for the transactions, and all the budget, forecast, and scenarios figures could be here on the new table that you have written back to your database. Same, you can call it from other tools, but this is basically it. Because now getting into more details will be getting more into the modeling part, and this might take a little bit longer. And I think now we have already spent 30 minutes, so I would like to open up the microphones if you have any questions, and also to read if there's anything that has been written so far. Let me see. Moment. So the microphones are open. Please feel free to interact if you may have any questions. Or also feel free to write on the chats if you may feel more comfortable. Oh, okay, Nico has a question. Well, there's one license actually for embedded solutions. I haven't tested it myself, so if um, Rohit from InfoRiver maybe could clear that out, would be appreciated. Rohit?
Yeah. Hello, Jürgen, and hello, Nico. I believe, yes, if a web interface means Power BI service, then of course you can work on top of your Power BI service reports. Or even if it is embedded, uh, you will still be able to work on top of. So as long as uh, InfoRiver, is able to be, since InfoRiver is sitting on top of Power BI, wherever your Power BI license is being supported, InfoRiver will be also supported on top of it.
Thank you. Hmm? Are there any other questions? If there are no more questions, also feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to help. If you have a more specific case, we could also look into it together. But I really appreciate your time for all the attendees, and I wish you a very nice day and afternoon, depending on where you're located. So thanks, Martin. Perfect. Thank you very much. See you soon. Send me an email directly, and because I need to check it first, and then I send it to you as well. You can contact me on LinkedIn. Perfect.